Sound off time now. Every day on Live at 3, we tackle one of the day's big issues with our colleague from News Radio 620 WTMJ, Jeff Wagner.
And here's the headline this Monday morning. 3 people dead over the weekend, several others injured after a string of violence in Milwaukee. Now, 2 of the victims were shot to death. A third was stabbed. This while Milwaukee's crime statistics are under review by the FBI. Now, our sound off question today is Milwaukee becoming more dangerous?
And I think what's important to note is that this isn't a reflection on the police department one way or the other. This is a situation of, what happens in general with the community, and are we getting more safe? Are we getting less safe? Let's start with Joe in Milwaukee.
I would say yes, it is, because of the unemployment and the gun law that was passed. If it wouldn't have been for that, I don't think it would be that bad.
I think it depends on where you live, too. I mean, you talk to people who don't really ever come into the city, that live, way out in the suburbs. They see these stories. Right. They will tell you Milwaukee's unsafe.
Oh, right. No, I think there's no question about it. If you were to go to the police department and you were to look at the violent crime / homicide map, it's unquestionable that there are areas of the city of Milwaukee, and the city of Milwaukee is a pretty big place, where you'd find very few violent crimes and very few homicides. On the other hand, you look at other sections of the city of Milwaukee and you'd see lots and lots. So I think you're right, Courtney. The answer, if I were answering this question, it would be, well, yes and no. I think there's probably areas of the city that are probably more dangerous than ever, other areas that are very, very safe. Here's Lynn on the east side.
I think Milwaukee has more dangerous because years ago you did not hear of all of these killings and shootings. This is not a safe city anymore. Maybe because there's no jobs. Let Scott Walker find jobs for people.
It goes without saying that there are parts of the city that are far more dangerous than others. I mean, there were people that came by the hundreds of thousands in for Summerfest. Right. Nobody was shot and killed. It's in the parts of the city where people are going to buy drugs or are running with a gang that these people are getting hurt.
Yeah, and I don't know that you can go to a city and not find that.
Right.
There are always going to be areas.
Well, you look at Chicago. The homicide rate in Chicago is absolutely through the roof this year. Now, some people would argue that homicides rate is kind of a misleading statistic, because what you really do is you look at shootings, because whenever you have a shooting, every shooting can turn into a homicide. It's just a question of whether it's a bad shooter, a bad aim, or emergency medicine, right, or whatever. Here's Michael in Milwaukee.
The Milwaukee Police Department, FBI, ATF all know what this is all about. It's a drug war that's been going on for a long, long time now, and it's going to get worse. And the people being shot are involved in drugs. The people that are shooting are involved in drugs, and it all comes down to territory. And this is nothing new in Milwaukee or Detroit or any other major city out there.
And he speaks to a point I think you and I have discussed before. Your odds of getting shot or killed in the city of Milwaukee go down substantially if you're not involved in a gang or other illegal activity. Right,
and I do think, obviously the drug issue is part of it. I think also, there is a criminal element that's out there that used to be, maybe 25 years ago, you'd resolve it by 2 guys getting into a punch-out. Now people are carrying guns illegally, and they decide to use them. Here's Stephen in Milwaukee who makes a point Courtney made.
I don't know about Milwaukee being more dangerous, but if you watch the news and go according to statistics, as long as you stay up the north side, you shouldn't have a problem at all.
Well, and there's no question. You go down to the lakefront, and you haven't had shootings on the lakefront. You haven't had incidents there. You do. You look at, for example, where these 3 homicides occurred over the weekend, and you're talking about certain areas of town,
and hopefully
that's what
people
you have to deal
filter
with.
that instead of, again, looking at the whole city and going, yeah, it's unsafe. I'm not going to.
I'm not going to go down. I'm not going to go to
Miller
Park.
Not going to the lakefront.
Yeah. Don't do that. Don't do that.
And I'm going to knock on wood.
Right.
All right, let's head over to